Real talk. The truth unfiltered. This is the Jake Underwood Show on AM 1420. The Answer.
Welcome back to the Jake Underwood Show right here on AM 1420. The Answer. I am Jake Underwood. We have Seth Williams behind the glass. Seth's back there. He was jamming earlier.
I was dancing.
Yeah, man, you were playing some Wham! I am excited about this next guest. I've known him for quite a while, and he's a veteran. He's a local business owner. You can look up all of the good things that he's doing and the handcrafted flags that he makes. They're incredible. Look him up on social media, Burdick Custom Flags. We are pleased and honored to welcome Joe Burdick to the show. Joe, how you been?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing well. So
Congratulations, my friend.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be back home and happy to be back on air in Northeast Ohio. So
well, we're all happy for you, especially us that have known you for a long time.
Well, thank you. That means a lot, and I wish we were talking. It's one of those bittersweet moments that we have you on today, and I want to jump right into what's going on with the Senate bill, and that's SB 244. And then I want to talk about your experience a little bit when you were in the military. But for the listeners who may not know the full story, what happened at Abbey Gate on August 26th, and why does that carry so much weight here in Ohio?
Yeah, so August 26th, 2021, we lost 13 heroes at Abbey Gate. One of those heroes was from Ohio, Maxton Soviak. And when, before Maxton even came home, his sister reached out to me, and she, through my business, she followed my social media, and she asked if she could buy one of my wooden flags. She thought it would be appropriate to put next to his casket at his wake. And when I read that, I was, my response was absolutely not. But I will give you one.
Yeah.
There was zero chance I wanted to make any money on a flag that would go next to a fallen hero. So the next day, she and her dad came to my house to pick it up, and Max was only 22 years old from Berlin Heights, and my heart as a dad, my heart went out to Kip Soviak, and I made a promise. I said, Kip, if you ever need anything, you can count on me. Whatever you need from me, I'll do it. And then a year later at the Neopat Gala, I met Rachel Soviak, Kip's mom. And I told her the same thing. I said, Rachel, if you ever need a flag or anything for fundraiser, just let me know and I'm there for you. And she looked at me with these eyes and she said, Joe, what I really need from you is to help keep Max's memory alive. And, I told her, I said, I promise I'll do that. And, I didn't know it at the time, but that promise was going to be a blanket promise to all 13 families to help keep all of their children's memories alive. It's very important to me, and it's very important for the state of Ohio to never forget, one of our own, and so ever since I met Kip and Marilyn Soviak, that's been my passion, is to help keep those memories alive.
And so it's SB 244. This was introduced in August, and it looks like it passed through the Senate, and now it was introduced in the House little over a month ago. Where are we at currently with this bill?
Yeah, so currently the House is in recess until February. Mm-hmm. So I anticipate, because this is a bipartisan, it's not a partisan thing at all, I anticipate it breezing through the House. In the last meeting it went through, a Democrat state congressman, state rep, had the nicest things to say about Max. He was on the funeral detail. So I really don't anticipate there being any issues. And honestly, I owe it all to state senators Rogner and Jane Timken for taking this serious. I mean, I met Christy Rogner at the Lincoln Day dinner earlier this year, and I just struck up a conversation with her, and I told her, my passion project and what I wanted to see happen, that I felt like August 26th should be a state day of remembrance. It should be a national day, but I figured I'd start local. As you know, the last 2 years I've done a community day of remembrance for the 13 in Seven Hills. Mayor Biassiata was amazing, and he volunteered whatever I needed to make this a reality. In the last 2 years, members of the Soviak family have come to my community day of remembrance, but State Senator Rogner took me serious, and in that conversation she says, "Joe, here's my contact information. Get in touch with me next week, tell me everything, and I'm on it." And she is not a typical politician. When she said she's on it, she jumped in with both feet, her and her office and Jane Timken, and they put it through as quick as they could, and the Senate unanimously voted for the bill, and so I'm just waiting for the House right now.
And so we talked about the legislation side of things. Let's talk about the other side, and that's with the veterans and the Gold Star families. What does this bill mean to not only the families of the 13 service members that we lost, but just those that served in Afghanistan?
Well, I think what it means for them, and I've gotten to know several of the Gold Star family members of the 13. I've actually had 2 on my podcast, just telling about their son's experience and their experience with the dignified transfer and all that. But what it means to veterans, and as you said, I'm a veteran, it shows that in Ohio, which when this passes, it'll make Ohio the first state in the country to officially recognize the sacrifices made by those 13. But what it'll show to veterans and Gold Star families is that in Ohio, we don't forget our veterans, and we don't forget those who make the ultimate sacrifice, which those 13 did. But there's also a lot of people, a lot of Americans that were really, really messed up because of what happened at Abbey Gate. There's even another Ohioan, corporal. She was paralyzed, and people, they don't even really talk about the traumatic brain injuries and the things that happened to those that actually survived. So this will show our veteran community that, we care here in Ohio, which we have a very large veteran community.
We do. And I think it shows something else because, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at all the different sponsors of the bill, and I'm noticing something. There's a lot of R's and a lot of D's. And, we just got done talking about the divide within the country and everything, but I think the bipartisan support that we're seeing in a time where there's just so much division. I mean, Joe, I don't know about you. I think it's pretty easy for anybody, left, right, or center, to, look at this bill and realize that it's doing the right thing for the veterans.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not saying that, hey, this is a Republican thing or this is an anti-Democrat thing. I guarantee some of those service members that died on that day were not Republicans. I guarantee their parents are not Republicans. It's not about that. There's a lot of division in our country, but when it comes to our veterans, there shouldn't be any partisanship one way or another.
And so beyond the Remembrance Day, what do you think that Ohio, not only Ohio, but the country, what can they do to properly honor the 13 service members that were killed at Abbey Gate?
Well, talking to some of the moms, really the best way to honor not only their sacrifices, but the sacrifices of everyone that made the ultimate sacrifices to live your best life, to travel, to love your family, to do things with your friends, to appreciate life, because these kids, most of them were in their early 20s. They don't get to do that stuff. They don't get to, get married, have kids. One of the moms told me her son had never even been with a girl. So, it's about living your best life. And what I always tell people is, and I tell my children too, we need to live a life worth dying for, because they died for us. And, it would be horrible to send a kid into the military and that person died and their sacrifice isn't appreciated. So while we can, have our 4th of July and our Veterans Day and our Memorial Day cookouts and whatever, we need to remember who they are, or, at least learn something about a veteran. You can't possibly know everything about every veteran, and I certainly don't. But, you can say, who's Max Soviak? Who's Dylan Marola? Who is, Kareem Nakui or Nicole G? It takes very little effort to look somebody up and say, oh, wow, Kareem Nakui was a 20-year-old kid that loved MMA and, he loved his parents and loved his country. That's the stuff that we need to do for all of our veterans, active and, the people that didn't make it home. I mean, tomorrow, Jake, I'm going down to the VA, and I have about 3,000 Christmas cards, and I'm buying 30 pizzas, and I'm giving them out to the veterans that are stuck at the VA tomorrow at Christmas time. I mean, it's the little things that we can do. I think it was Abraham Lincoln that said we have to serve those that serve us, right? Yeah. And so we can't forget the veteran community because, I was at an aircraft carrier in the middle of the Indian Ocean on Christmas Day in 1988, and I was wondering, do people even care that we're out here? We can't forget. There's a lot of people like that aren't home for the holidays that may never come home. And, I just want to do whatever I can do.
Yeah. And, everybody, life is the ultimate sacrifice. But when you think about the time is also something that people can't get back. And the veterans and the people that are serving, they just give it. And it's something when I think of the time, like you just said, you're there on this, just in the middle of the ocean. It's really incredible to think about. And I know I'm thankful, and I know that the listeners are forever grateful and thankful. So let me ask you, so when this passes and we have the Day of Remembrance, what does that look like to you? Like the ceremonies, local events, the education, what else do you want? Like, what do you want this day to look like?
Well, what I would like it to look like is I want people to, first of all, I'm hoping I can get invited to some schools or something because it's during a school year. So, and I can talk about the 13. This isn't about me. It should be about them. And what I hope is that, it's just an August 26th. It's not the 4th of July. We're not going to get a day off of work or anything. Right. So I'm hoping people will just, when they see on their calendars or whatever, when it pops up, Day of Remembrance, I'm hoping they look at it and say, what are we remembering today? Oh, what happened at Abbey-Gate. Okay. And then they start looking, it's like, what happened at Abbey-Gate? How many people were killed? Who were they? And then hopefully it snowballs into there and they want to learn a little bit about the people that made the ultimate sacrifice. So I know that's what their parents want because all the Gold Star families that I've talked to, they all agree that that's what they want.
We have a question from Seth. Go ahead.
Because I heard something interesting there. I am very happy with what you're doing. I think this is awesome. But I am going to root for that day off, though, just so you know. Sorry.
Well, when it goes to the governor's desk, I will ask him. I know he's a big fan of yours, Seth, so I will.
We go way back.
So I'm gonna put a note in. Seth Williams is requesting we get that day off.
Well, it should be a holiday to celebrate.
It should be
to mourn, to acknowledge.
Yes, I don't disagree though. But seriously, I just hope people will dig deeper into it and just find out why we are a day of remembrance in Ohio for that day. And, and seriously, I owe it all to Christy Rogner and Jane Timken. They took me serious when they could have been typical politicians that just blew me off. They didn't. They weren't that way. And, if you watch the videos of their hearings, you can tell that this is, they're passionate about this.
Yep.
And I love those guys for that.
And so let me ask you about the bill itself. Do you think this brings a little bit of closure about this? Because I know there's still a lot that needs to be done, and I'd want to hear what you think needs to be done. But do you think this brings some closure to the way everything was handled?
Actually, I don't. I probably know more about this than probably the average person, just because I've had some very, detailed conversations with families, and I don't think it brings closure, but what I think it brings is appreciation. These families, they don't want their children forgotten. And the last 2 years of my community day of remembrance, the feedback I've gotten from the families is appreciation. They never heard of Seven Hills, Ohio, but now they're grateful that the mayor and a couple of hundred people in uniformed military show up to honor the sacrifice of their kid and to say their name out loud, and they know that their kid's sacrifice has not been forgotten. And so closure, I don't think so. I don't think they're gonna. I mean, I can't put myself in their situation, but I'm guessing there's never going to be closure. I mean, but there's a little bright spot on a very dark day.
And so
there's just go ahead.
When it comes to the accountability of everything that happened, I mean, how do we figure out that, and how do we hold the people who need to be accountable in your opinion?
Sadly, I think it's too late for that. I mean, the only accountability that there's ever been in this was a Marine that spoke up about that what happened was wrong. He got in trouble. So the people that were accountable, the Secretary of Defense at the time, the higher ups, even the president, those are the people that should be held accountable, and I don't think they will. I mean, I think the government is going to try to do things to honor the sacrifices, but I mean, I don't see General Milley. I don't see Lloyd Austin. I don't see President Biden. I don't see any of those guys getting in trouble for what they did. A lot went wrong that day, and it could have been avoided. And so I don't think there's going to be much accountability. I know they said that they caught a guy that was allegedly the mastermind. I mean, the families, some believe it, some don't. And, that's not going to bring their kid back. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hopefully that's I'm hopeful with that is, we start to speak out a little bit more. Cause I think if people start to demand answers and just ask the why, I think we'll figure it out. We might not like the answer. We might not like the why, but I think we'll figure it out. And, of course, we're talking with Joe Burdick about Senate Bill 244. And as he said, the House is in recess right now, so make sure you call, leave your voicemail, send your email saying, hey, let's get this on the governor's desk. We need this taken care of. Now, Joe, I do want to ask you about your business. So I do want to switch it up here a little bit because it's Burdick Custom Flags. And you and I met because when we were feeding the police down the dial, you were showing up with these incredible flags. What made you want to get started with that?
About 10 years ago, I was in a Pat Catan's, and, I'm very patriotic, and I love the flag, obviously, and I saw this wooden flag at Pat Catan's, and I saw it, and I said I wanted it, and I picked it up, and I looked on the back, and right there on the back, stamped Made in China. Well, being the patriot that I am, I put it back down, and I drove my family nuts for months saying, I could do that, I could make it better, I could do this. Well, my family was finally like, well, then just do it, just to shut me up. So I started making these flags, and, I started giving them to my veteran friends and my first responder friends. Well, and then I kind of perfected how I wanted them to look, which is totally different than how I do it now, by the way. And it started, people wanted to start buying them, and it turned into a little side gig. And then people like Mike Trevisano saw what I did and loved them. And, we were able to use my flags to, honor the police departments, and I used them. I've helped raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for different charities.
Right.
And to me, that's so much better than anything I can make on I give away